Woohoo!
Yeah. Hello, everybody. It's the Chip and Bart show.
What's happening? Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the deck.
Welcome to the deck. Hey, it's just Chip and I today. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing, Bart?
I'm fantastic. Is it as hot as the sun in Tucson today?
Yes, it is. It's pretty hot. What's happening? It's pretty hot.
It's in Tucson, like a cool day is 105 degrees, you know.
Yeah, a nice and breezy, cool day is 105 easy.
That's crazy.
What's happening with you, man? How are you doing, Bart?
You know what? I'm doing great, Chip. I'm doing fantastic, and we want to send a nice warm deck hello to our friends Rick Stojak and Jeremy Stein. Rick, unfortunately, he's not with us today because he has COVID. He's getting over COVID. Yeah, he's not feeling good. So, Rick, we love you, and
Rick.
yeah, and so we're pushing for you. And what's Jeremy doing today?
I don't know. Jeremy's probably administering something about BAMWorks and his other business.
Maybe he's out to lunch with Chewbacca. He still has the hangover from last week's thing at Skywalker Ranch.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yesterday we got a text message that Rick wasn't feeling well and he wasn't going to be with us, and Jeremy said he wasn't going to be here. So the first thing that popped into my mind was, okay, it's going to be Chip and I again, and we've done a show by ourselves before, and it went really well. We played off each other great. And I thought, well, what can we talk about? And Chip, in my opinion, you, buddy, are probably like the goal setting king.
Yeah.
You really are great at setting goals. And so that was the first thing that popped into my mind. And I wanted to talk about that because I think musicians sometimes, they might have, and especially young musicians of all ages or as long as they've been in the business, whatever, have these goals that they want to achieve something. And maybe their goal is whatever. I want to be a great drummer. I want to be a rich, famous rock star, whatever it is, but they don't take the little steps to get to that ultimate goal. Mm-hmm. You're great at that. So let's talk about that. So today's goal is to get through the show without Jeremy and Rick, but talk to me about your goal setting stuff, Chip. What do you do when you set a goal? Talk to us about what a goal is.
I've got a lot of sources and a lot of different places that I got my process through. One of them is Brian Tracy. He's a motivational speaker. You can find him on YouTube. He's got a lot of good stuff about goal setting. Another is Grant Cardone, who 10X's everything. He's got a great book called The 10X Rule. And then Tony Robbins has some good stuff on goal setting too. I mean, There's just all kinds of resources out there. So I kind of put my process together from a combination of those three, and I use it all the time, man. I use the process, and it helps me achieve my goals. It's just basically a fundamental step-by-step thing that I follow that helps me get to where I want to go, because my brain doesn't do really well at storage and holding things and remembering things. So I really use a lot of paper and pen, and I write my stuff out. So one of the best things I can say is, to write your goal down on a piece of paper. And before you start, imagine that you have a magic wand, right? You wave your magic wand and you're like, if I had all the resources at my command, a blank check, right? There's just no cost whatsoever. What would I want this goal to look like? Like cleaning my house. I wave a magic wand and I imagine my house as clean as possible, and I describe it in detail, and I write out a little paragraph about the end result. And I start with that. You know what I mean? I start really solidifying what it is we want. So it's just basically writing it down and making sure I start with the end in mind. And then I ask myself, what would need to happen for this to be true? And then I sit there and I brainstorm, and I let there's no wrong answers in a brainstorming session. Mm-hmm. I let all the things that come to my mind just flow out into the piece of paper, and I just stream of consciousness, write everything out. And throughout that whole page, once I get about a page full of ideas and things that could help me have that goal happen, then I'm ready to start picking apart. A couple of them are going to light up and be like really obvious no-brainers. And so I'm going to start with those and start putting together a plan of action, steps to take where I can achieve that goal. What David Betts is in the house. Thanks for watching, David Betts.
David, how are you, buddy?
David says that a dream written down with a date becomes a goal broken down into steps because a plan, and a plan backed up by action makes your dreams come true. That's pretty much it right there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's very well said,
man. That's how I've accomplished almost all of the major things in my life that I wanted to do, and that's how I'm kind of working towards the future on the goals that I have set for myself now.
That's great. Now,
you have a process?
I kind of do the same thing. Whatever my end goal is, I start with that, and I think about it. I think about what the end goal is. What do I want to achieve? How I want to achieve it. And I write down different steps. I do a lot of brainstorming.
Right on.
I've often said that, I don't think there's no bad ideas, right? And that you can write down. Now, you might have an idea and you put it out there and it falls flat, but I would rather put an idea out there and have it fall flat and not work 100 times and then have that one that does work, and I think you have to kind of do that. You got to have a lot of failures before you have success. What do they say?
Yeah.
Success is something that is found under a pile of mistakes, and so and it is,
littered with the bones of your mistakes.
Exactly, man. There's a minefield behind me, that has been chasing me my whole life. It's what's going forward that is important. So I try to do that with setting goals. I write them down, and then break them down into usable steps. I'll give you an example for a drum part thing. I saw a video, and you'll have to forgive me. I can't remember who the drummer's name was, but they were talking about the song "Everybody Wants to Rule the World" for Tears for Fears.
Yeah.
And they said, that is the two drummers that were talking said that is one of the most iconic rock and roll drum parts ever written. And I was like, those are pretty big words. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And so I'd heard the song a million times, and I never really heard the drum part. It's a shuffle. I didn't think much of it. Well, come to listen to it more, it's a pretty amazing drum part. I don't know, it's one of the most iconic in the world, but it's an amazing drum part. And it's a polyrhythmic 6/4 hi-hat groove, and the 8th note is displaced a little bit. So if the beat, here, let me turn on the metronome here. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
So if it's like that, and that, and that, so there's a 6/4 polyrhythm.
Yeah.
1. They displaced it, so it's 1, 1. So that's what the hi-hat's doing. And then it's doing it over the shuffle groove, and the snare drum, the hi-hat, and the bass drum all land together on 2 and 4. It's a pretty amazing drum part. So anyway, what's this have to do with goals? Well, I couldn't play it. I could play it with the polyrhythm the other way, but I couldn't play it that way. So I had to set out these goals. Okay, well, how do I do that? Well, let me first see if I can play the polyrhythm and displace it. Okay, I can do that. Now it's basically the bass drum is playing a 4 on the floor pattern with a few other notes in there. So let's make sure I'm not slamming on 2 and 4 with the bass drum and snare drum. Yeah. Then let's put in the other bass drum notes and let's make this groove come to life. And so within about a week's amount of time, I could play the groove and I could make it feel good, and I could make somebody want to move with it. Now, do I have the song down 100% perfect? No, I haven't been working on it that much, but I really wanted to learn this groove. And so that's the way I broke it down into these little bite-sized pieces. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So I just took it, and that was my elephant, and I got the groove, and hey, I could do it. So that's the way I do it, and that's on a drum part. There's so many other ways to set goals. What was it? You said something interesting, Chip. I love Tony Robbins. You mentioned another person's name, and you said the 10 times rule.
The 10x rule.
10x rule? What is
Grant
that?
Cardone talks about, well, he talks about, you set a goal and you say, hey, I want to play on Drumeo. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And he said, but then you want to 10x the goal and 10 times it and say, I want to play on Drumeo and do a drum solo and teach jazz patterns and do stick tricks video. You know what I mean? You 10x it, you multiply it by 10, because if you don't hit that goal, you'll be farther along than you would your original one because you 10x'd it.
Oh,
See,
okay.
I want to make $5,000 in the next month. Well, 10 times that would be 50 grand. Well, that's kind of ridiculous. But if you shoot for 50 grand and not 5, you'll pass 5, is the theory behind it. You know what I mean? You 10x your goals.
Wow, that's
Very cool.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Now,
you'd be amazed at what you can accomplish if you overdo it.
that's great. Now, so you were on Drumeo and you did
I was
just
on
that.
Drumeo. Yeah, I did my goal setting process for Drumeo too. Yeah. Reached out to a friend. Who do I know at Drumeo? You know what I mean? Do I know anybody that knows anybody at Drumeo? And it goes on from there.
And then you made those steps. Now, is that what you did with the David Letterman show?
That's pretty much what we did with the David Letterman show as well. We envision the goal. What's the ultimate that could have happened? Well, you know what I mean? I play with Paul Schaefer's band. You know what I mean? That's get to be the drummer for Paul Schaefer for a while and sit in Anton's seat. And then as the steps provided, as the process goes through, then one thing leads to another. The next thing I know, you know what I mean? I made it on the show. So
that's outstanding.
It's pretty cool.
I want to ask you a question in regards to that, into something that you and I were talking about off air, and that is, and we've talked about this on air before too, and that's fear, right? Fear is something that I think a lot of musicians suffer from. A lot of musicians suffer from fear, and and that kind of stops us in our tracks. Now, when setting one's goals, when you set your goals, how do you deal with fear? Because look, let's face it, you're going to play on the David Letterman show. There's going to be a few people see that. You're going to play on Drumeo. There's a few drummers that are going to see that. You're playing for your peers at that point.
Oh, absolutely.
That had to have been fearful. You had to be afraid.
There's a lot of fear. I was at one point through the process, I was sitting outside of the clubhouse my friends went to, and I was just wrought with fear about failure on the whole thing. And it was such a fearful experience. I'd have sharp jolts of pain when I thought about it. It was just a crippling fear. And the way to deal with fear is to recognize where you're at first, is to be present where you're at and realize that these fears are coming from the past or the future. They're not coming from now, because right now I'm okay. You know what I mean? Nobody's laughing at me. Nobody's canceling me from the show. I'm breathing. I've got a plan. I'm okay. So, you've got to get present and centered and be in the now to first start moving for the fear. Fear, what's that acronym for fear? False evidence appearing real. You know what I mean?
Oh, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's false evidence appearing real. It's really, fear doesn't really exist. We're the ones that manufacture fear in our brain, and it's because of how we're looking at something. And the answer to fear is faith and love. You're either in love or you're in fear. And so one of the main things I've used to get through fear is to get back down to that original goal statement where I waved a magic wand and I said, what would be needed to happen to have these things become true? And imagine the end result being really without fear. You know what I mean? Juggling my drumsticks and catching every one of them and having a great time and being in the zone and just losing track of time because I'm having so much fun doing the Drumeo thing. And that's really how I move forward to it. It's like a carrot on the stick, like moving towards that shiny thing. I'd way rather be drawn towards a shiny goal than fearfully driven towards it. You know what I mean? It doesn't work as well.
Right. And fear also is a bit of a motivator if used correctly, because my dad told me that once. My dad was a really successful guy, and I said, how did you get so successful? Well, he talked about setting goals and stuff, But he also said fear can be a good motivator. I was afraid that I was going to lose everything. I was afraid I wasn't going to get the contract. I was afraid. And so I went for it. And I think that that's important because, if you don't use your fear as a motivator to get your stuff done, to reach your goals, one day you're gonna look back and go, gosh, I wish I would have done this, or I wish
Yeah.
I wish I would have tried to play on Drumeo, or I wish I would have played on the David Letterman show.
Or
And
I wish I would have set my goal higher.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
You'd be
right.
amazed with some of the goals that you set and then you achieve them and you kind of look back and you think, you know what, I could have probably done better than that too. We
Yeah.
had a fundraiser with April Samuels from Breast Cancer Can Stick It, and I was fundraising for the Breast Cancer Can Stick It Drumathon in 2000 and I think it was 2017. And the original goal set by the little thing on the computer was $1,000. And one night I was up late with my dog and I was just thinking about this and I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in. And if I'm going to go all in, we're going to set the goal. So I set the goal at $7,500, $7,500.
Okay.
And it just turned into this thing where that goal was so shiny and so motivating that it propelled and gave me the energy to get through the fear of not being able to do things. You know what I mean? And we ended up breaking that goal and getting 8,000 for the year. It was really cool.
That's outstanding, man. That's great. That's fantastic.
That's the fear was there, but walking with fear, walking with purpose in spite of the fear is the big key, that you go through it. You don't just, something doesn't come along and just evaporate the fear. You get scared, but you do it scared anyway. If you are scared, and then pretty soon you gain momentum and then you become not scared because you get so focused on the task at hand that you don't have time to be fearful. You're too busy kicking ass and knocking down targets,
Yeah. I think General Patton said that every war that's ever been fought, every battle that's ever been fought has been fought by brave men that were scared to death.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's true of life. I don't, we're talking, when I use that analogy, talk about war, but I think it is. It's something that everybody kind of struggles with in their own personal life at their own personal place. And setting a goal and then achieving it, you go through a lot of fear. Matt Starr, remember we had him on a few weeks ago, Chip?
Yeah.
Matt's really good at setting goals and breaking things down. He gave us that goal sheet, and I've been using that. And I'm not going to be able to find it now that I said that. It's around here somewhere. And he, as he put it to me one time, he's like, I just had to walk through the fire. He walks through the fire. Mike Dupke, he was on a few weeks ago. He plays with, I think that was the day that you weren't feeling well. You weren't on. He plays with Wasp and I play with D. Schneider and stuff. And he said the same thing. There's that point where you have that little bit of intimidation, but you face it. And so, and setting those goals, okay, this is who I want to play with and I'm all in. And I also think that once you kind of put your goal out there into the universe, kind of the laws of attraction way of thinking, once you put your goal out there, you've written it down, you've said it out loud, you've put it out there with, it's going to come back to you, and it'll come back to you with either positive energy or negative energy, depending on how you do it.
This is one of the reasons that you want to write it down on a piece of paper in very clear, concise, descriptive goal statement. You know what I mean? Like, okay, let's say that I have a goal for cleaning the house. I want to make sure that I write down a statement that says, I'm so happy and grateful now that my house is clean happily and easily by 4 p.m. on 7/28/22. That gives me a date, that gives me a specific statement, and that gives me like a mantra to refer back to. If I hit any obstacles, I just go back to that goal statement and imagine my house clean, and things come up to the surface that say, okay, well, we got to work on this. That helps you break it down after that. So having the goal statement definitely puts it out to the universe.
Yeah, yeah. Most definitely. Most definitely. One of the ways that I use goals lately, and we all kind of use Deck to be a platform to plug our stuff. Rick was talking about it with his books. We've all talked about it with our stuff. I just finished my very first record
Yeah.
of my music, and and when I say my music, I've got to give credit where credit is 110% due. My songwriting partner Blackthorn, who is I played in it with him in a band many years ago. He and I went out for coffee one day, and I had presented some songs to Sam Morrison band, and they just weren't right for the record we were doing at the time. Sam was like, "Man, they're good songs, but they're not right for what we're doing." Okay, cool. And that happens a million times if you're a songwriter or a creative person. It's not always going to work. So I was like, man, I really want to get these songs out. So I put that out there and I wrote it down. I want to put my record out. Well, there it's written down and it's seen. Next thing you know, out of happenstance, I'm going out to coffee with a friend. This friend happens to be a songwriter and a very creative person and a great artist and a friend. And, without boring everybody with the details, next thing we're writing an album and recording it. And now the album's completely recorded. I'm going to drop the first video for it tomorrow for a song called
Video
Blood.
comes out tomorrow.
Yep, can't wait. Looking forward to that. Really excited about it. The video, I'm blown away by how good it came out. But that wouldn't have happened if I would have just said, "Oh, I'm going to record a record." Okay, I've recorded a lot of records, but what
Yeah.
was my specific goal, right? And so I think all young songwriters or young drummers or young musicians out there, you got to kind of go through that. Okay, what is my end goal? Yeah, my end goal was to record a record, but I needed a lot of stuff to make that record happen. I needed a studio, I needed microphones, I needed engineering, I needed producing, I needed all this stuff. And if you have to write that stuff down, you
And
have to.
that's again where I come down to the point where the belief system that the brain isn't really meant for storage. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You want your
Yeah.
brain free and clear and open and empty so that it creates and brings you options. And so by writing down those things that you wrote down, you free up that space, that mental hard drive space to attack the problem or to attack the next step. You know what I mean? I think that's great, man. So you got this CD coming out.
Mhm.
How did you envision the CD? Did you like envision what the cover looked like when you started, or what other tricks of the trade did you use as far as goal setting?
Well, what I did for goal setting was once I started writing the songs with my songwriting partner, and once we started like realizing that it was going to be a real album, I started writing down the goals of what, like, if I was going to produce a record and I wanted it to sound like this, what would this be?
Yeah,
So I had very specific, okay, I want this song to sound like this song. I want this song to sound like this song. And not that I wanted to copy somebody else, but maybe it was a production thing. Maybe a certain song required a certain snare drum sound. So I had to make sure that this song had this kind of snare drum sound. And I went through all of those processes. Then once the songs were recorded, well, how do I want them mixed? And then
yeah.
the album cover, I wanted everything to be very artistic, meaning I didn't want it to be. I wanted people to think when they saw it, what is this? What happened to this guy? Why did he write this? What the heck? I wanted it to be deep. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of the direction that we headed. Now, I got a question for you, Chip, in regards to this, because this happened to me when recording this record. You set down goals, or you write down goals. You're setting your goals. You're heading towards them, and you're heading towards this one goal. And then all of a sudden, it kind of goes like this a little bit. It veers
Hmm.
off. It's not exactly wrong. It's not what you envisioned. Do you try to push it back to center, or do you run with it? What do you do?
Well, I usually ask my heart if my heart is really if that's what my heart wants. And
Hmm.
if that's what my heart wants, I write a new goal statement. I switch it. I write a new one. You know what I mean? But if it's not what my heart wants, I try to gear back and reset my program and start going back over the papers that I wrote and going through those details and figuring out how to get back on track. And
Perfect.
sometimes you have to write a new deadline. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's okay. That's okay.
Now, when you say a new deadline, maybe pushing something off into the future a little bit.
Yeah, if you need more time to reach the goal, then set the new deadline.
Right.
But I try
Exactly.
not to make that a habit, because you want to have a deadline written in your goal of a date and a time. It's also kind of weird how the subconscious brain works. The subconscious part of your brain is like a computer, and it never stops going, and it's like garbage in, garbage out. What you
Right.
put in it is what you get out of it. But if you
Mhm.
put down, like, if I'm cleaning my house is very clean happily and easily by 4 p.m. on 7/28. That 4 p.m. seems like a little extra detail, though. Why would that matter? But your brain, your subconscious, recognizes 4 p.m. more than it does 7/28. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it kind of helps get going, and throughout the process of, while you're trying to get there, while you're cleaning the house, the subconscious will come in and kick in and start giving you ideas of things you can do to get that goal done faster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's great. So
it
just
works.
having that little subliminal almost thing, 4
Yeah,
p.m. on
4 p.m.
7/28.
or three. Pick a time. Pick a time to help you envision what that end result's going to be.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah, it
fantastic. Now,
helps a lot.
and so you see that goal, you see the house being clean, and you just kind of automatically start going there. You just
Well, yeah,
automatically
yeah.
start.
You find
Yeah.
yourself just kind of doing things on the fly because
Mhm.
you've got it written down. It makes it more concrete and more real. And
Right.
when you get the temptation, okay, I've got to sweep up the dog hair in the hallway. That's one thing I have to do to clean my house. Well, I'm
Mhm.
walking in the hallway and I see the broom, and I'm going to make some coffee, or I'm going to sweep the hallway. And it's like, dude, I can sweep the hallway while the coffee's brewing. So I start the coffee and then I grab the broom and then I'm off to the races. And that's part of the thing where it comes into play, where you're calling an audible, where you're not following all of the steps in order, maybe, but you're using your subconscious that knows what the goal is about to guide your actions in the moment.
I love that. And in case anybody that's a drummer that's watching this going, why are Chip and Bart talking about sweeping dog hair in the hallway? Well, that's metaphorical. But let's say that hypothetically, I'm getting ready to go on to one of my favorite things in the world to do, and that's Drummers Education Connection. I get to hang out with my buddy Chip Ritter. I get to hang out with Jeremy Stein and Rick Stojak, except for not today. And we set up the StreamYard thing, and I send out the invites, and lo and behold, you know, everybody's got their things going. They're running a little bit behind. Well, I'm not talking about sweeping dog hair in the hallway, but what I am talking about is I'm sitting here in front of my computer and I don't have anything kind of happening right now. But what is in front of me? Well, right over here, I got my little aquarium practice pad. Just so happens that I have a pair of sticks, and it just so happens that I'm turning on my metronome here, if I can hit the button. And hey, nobody likes to play paradiddles. Every drum student goes, I don't want to play paradiddles. I don't want to do it. Well, you got a few minutes before Chip comes in. All right.
There you go.
Hey, Chip's on. Okay. Well, now I'm going to start my conversation with Chip. But in the 5 minutes that I was waiting for Chip, I got my paradiddles done. I got some paradiddles done. I got a little bit better at going right, left, right, left, right, left, left than I was yesterday. Okay.
Yeah,
Am I the paradiddle king? No, I'm not. Nobody is. But I'm a little bit better than I was
but you're
yesterday.
moving towards your goal.
Exactly 100%. And I think kind of keeping that in mind, you know, that you're going towards that goal, sometimes in little steps, sometimes in big steps. I'm sweeping the floor while the coffee's brewing. I'm going to sit down in a minute and enjoy a cup of coffee, right? But I'm also going to sweep the floor. The house is clean. I'm going to see my buddy Chip in a minute, but in the
Mhm.
meantime, until he gets on, I'm going to play some paradiddles, right? And I think that that's a little bit more tangible than sitting down and going, hey, I'm going to practice paradiddles for an hour, because after 5 minutes of paradiddles, you don't want to play them anymore.
Well,
right?
that's the other cute good thing about baby steps and having your goal broken down into different steps into smaller increments. Those little goals becomes, I mean, those little steps and actions in a way become sub goals of their own. And like, getting the dog hair out of the hallway, that's not, doesn't make my whole house clean, but it gets me that much closer, and it gives me that confidence to say, hey, you know what I mean? I get encouragement from the fact that I've achieved that sub goal, that tiny little step,
Perfect.
I love what David said. A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. When you talk about a goal, when you come up with something like, hey, I want to make a CD, another thing that Tony Robbins usually says is never leave the scene of a goal without making some action towards it, taking
Yeah.
some kind of step towards it, like write down on a piece of paper, go over album art. That by itself can, you go about the rest of your day, but at least you've set a specific action towards that goal in that moment. And that's
Yeah.
getting you momentum.
One of the things that I noticed in the recording of this album that I did, and this is with every album I've ever recorded in my life. It's the same thing. Um, it's kind of like we're talking about the dog hair or the paradiddles or whatever. I may not have 8 hours to sit down and chip away at this record and record a bunch of stuff and produce it, but I might have 45 minutes where I can tweak in a reverb or really get a snare drum sounding right. Or man, I'm not quite sure if that guitar is sitting in the mixed right. I need to
Mm-hmm.
work on that a little bit. And you do that, and then you save it, and then you back it up, and then you come back to it. And the other thing, and now we're talking album and work and producing, but now when you come back to it the next day or 2 days later, that little bit of work that you've done has made headway, number one. And number two, when you come back to it, you have fresh ears. Your ears aren't tired, and you can go, oh yeah, that was a good move, or oh, that wasn't such a good move, right? I should go
Mm-hmm.
back to the way I had it. And
Yeah.
so sometimes it's those little things that make the big difference, I think, in the long run. I really am a firm believer in that. Now, Chip, let's say you're cleaning your house and you
Yeah.
come to
The goal of cleaning my house.
the goal of cleaning your house, and you come to um okay, now I've been to Chip's house, and he has this huge staircase that goes up to the third floor with this brass railing, right? Remember that, Chip?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you have a piece of brass, right? And you don't know how to clean brass. Well, it just so happens that your brass on your staircase, or your handle on your staircase, is made of brass, as is your cymbals. But you don't know how to clean brass. You don't know what to do. Your goal is to clean the brass, but you don't know how to clean brass. What do you do?
What do you do? Well, you incorporate your human resources. You think
Okay.
about all the people that you know and that all the people that you've met, and you ask yourself, if I knew anybody that that knew how to clean brass, who would it be?
Right.
And your brain will come back and say, I don't know anybody. And then you do that trick that Grant Cardone talks about. He goes, okay, but if you did, who would it be? Give me a name. And there will be a name of somebody that you can call out and be like, hey man, do you know how I can clean brass? And maybe they'll say, I know how and here's how, or they'll say, I have no idea. And if they say I have no idea, say, well, if you did know anybody, who would that be? And that would usually bring you to a contact, which would lead you towards somebody that knows how to clean brass that can help you with that situation.
That's great. So it's human resources and it's research, It's,
Mm-hmm.
if I want to if man, I want to learn how to play drums. I don't know how to play drums. I really want to learn. And how in the heck how am I going to play paradiddles? I know what a paradiddle is, but how do I get good at them? What am I going to do? I know I'm going to call my buddy Chip, because Chip knows how to play paradiddles. He's going to show me. I called Chip. Well, man, I'm really busy. I don't have time to teach you paradiddles right now. I'm just too slammed. I got a tour coming up. I got this and I got that. But here's my buddy Rick Stojak's number. You can call Rick. He'll help you with your paradiddles, and you go from there. So it definitely is, I think, like Chip said, human resources. I also think it's not giving up, and it's digging, right? it's digging deep and trying to find, like Chip said, somebody that knows how to clean brass, somebody that knows how to play paradiddles. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And not giving up on it. Hey, our buddy Rick checked in with this.
Yeah, Rick Stojak says, sorry to miss you guys today. I've already recovered, and it was super mild. I'm back to teaching today, making up for lost lessons. Looking forward to seeing everyone next week. You guys rock. You rock.
Awesome. Well, Rick rocks. I'll tell you what, I've said this before. Rick Stojak is like a positive energy hand grenade.
He's a
You pull the
ball of energy, man.
dude, you pull the pin on that guy and poof, it's just like flowers and rainbows and happiness shoots everywhere, man. He's phenomenal. So that being said, positive energy, Chip. Let's talk about positive energy and negative
Positive
energy
energy.
into a goal. You got a goal, but if you're and hey, look, you can reach a goal with negative energy, right? You can.
Yeah,
You
I
can
guess
reach
you
you,
could. I guess you
right?
could, but you wouldn't have as much fun.
You wouldn't at
No,
all.
that's one reason that why you wave that magic wand. You ideally you envision the ideal situation, and it makes you happy. And the goal is so shiny and sparkly that you get lit up, and you just think about it, and it feels good just to ponder what that would be like. It just having my house be clean and feeling how wonderful and accomplished I feel about looking around and seeing everything so clean and in its right place. That's positive energy right there.
Exactly. It is positive energy. And then I think that kind of compounds upon itself. I really do. Um
Yeah, the
I
law of attraction is true. Like becomes like.
mhm,
Like matter is attracted to like matter. So the more positive you can be, the more positive you will be.
right. I was watching a thing on YouTube as a video on laws of attraction. It was with Leonardo DiCaprio. I think Denzel
Hmm.
Washington was in the video. A whole bunch of really amazing actors. And they said that you usually will attract the things you are most fearful of. And and uh, and Denzel Washington, or no, yeah, it was Denzel Washington. He said, he goes, "Well, I'm obviously petrified of great actors because I'm always around them," and I find that true because look, if you're a musician, I'm a drummer. Chip's a drummer. You know, I'm lucky enough to be in this circle where I'm always around great drummers, and I must be petrified of great drummers because they're going to play better than me, right? You're going to be attracted to the people that you're going to be attracted to the things that are frightening to you. But that man sharpens man like steel sharpens steel. So there again, we're using fear and the laws of attraction. You might be you got this drummer on the side of the stage that's watching you play, and and oh my God, that guy's amazing. Just last Saturday night, Frank Ortega. I want to get Frank on the deck. He is one of the most amazing Latin percussionists I know. The guy plays conga, timbale, drums, everything, dude. Latin, he can play it. He's so
Right on.
phenomenal. And anyway, he was in the band opening to us, and we were opening to the headliner. And so Frank and I just backstage, we were having a great time talking drums and Latin music and claves and stuff. And I stood on the side of the stage and watched him and I cheered him on. And he did the same thing for me. And there was that point where I was like, oh my God, Frank's watching. I really got to bring my A game right now. But it kind of it lifts you up. That little bit of, oh, Frank's over there, man. Watch your
Keep you on
time.
your
Nail
toes.
this part. Really get it's not a SmackDown thing. It's like, hey, my buddy's watching me. If Chip's standing on the side of the stage, I'm gonna play the best I can play, man. You know, and I think that I don't know if that's fear or respect or what that
I
is,
don't.
but it
I think that you can think about the positive aspect of that. Like, hey, if I play my best, let me play really good and impress my buddy over here. I don't think
right,
there's any fear involved with that at all.
right, yeah, yeah, you're right.
Rick Stojak asked if I can come clean his house, and the answer is yes. I can come clean your house, Rick.
Awesome. Hey, well, while you're at it, when you're done, just come up to 15.
I
He's
will.
off the fit. Come up to 15, clean my house. We can
I
we can
will.
have,
I'll do that, man. That's not a problem.
and just so happens I have a set of drums over here. We can play drums too.
Well, we talked about that imposter syndrome too. We did a whole episode on that, And
We did.
that comes down, when you're overwhelmed by your goals and everything feels like it's like never going to happen, and you have all these negative thoughts and you just feel like you're not worthy. That's again that's a key reason why you wrote down that goal statement to begin with. And it's time to pull that paper out and go back over the positive aspects of your goal,
Mhm.
to get you thinking back on the things of how good you're going to feel when it's done. That
Right.
gives you motivation to get through those tiny little steps of sweeping the dog hair in the hallway.
Right. Right. I
Yeah.
also think sometimes you have to have a why to your goal. Why do I want
You
to
have
achieve
to
this
have a
goal?
why. You
Yeah.
definitely have to have a why. The
Yeah.
why is the power. You know what I mean? Why you want that, what that reason in your heart is telling you, and pumping out the why, then you will find out the how.
Perfect. Let's go to young drummers. Okay.
Young
What do you
drummers.
tell
Let's go.
young drummers? Chip, you got this kid comes to you. He's
Mm-hmm.
11 years old. He
Uh-oh.
knows how to play. He knows how to play a drum groove. He
He knows
can
how to
he
use
can
technology better than me.
he knows how to use technology better than all of us. Because why?
We've been anointed with this technology.
And 8-year-olds know it better than we do.
Yeah, we do. You said he was 11.
Oh, he's 11. Sorry.
Okay.
You're right.
All right.
Different kid. Different kid.
Okay,
Okay, he's
good.
11,
He's
11 years
11.
old,
He's coming to me.
and he can blast his way through Back in Black. He's not 100%, but man, he can just beat the heck out of the drums, and he is having so much fun. But he wants to play Back in Black perfectly. He's like, Chip, show me how to play this. Show me how to do that. What do you tell that kid? What do you tell him about the goal setting and show him how to do it? Explain that process to me.
Well, if I've got an 11-year-old that can kind of get through it, but he really wants to nail it, then I'm going to tell him that we're going to map out the song and put a goal down on the piece of paper. I'm so happy now that I can play Back in Black perfectly, note by note, by 4 p.m. on 7/28. I'm going to give him a couple weeks or whatever, right?
That's
By
2
4,
days, dude. This kid's got to be on his game,
we got
practicing.
a couple weeks is August 13th.
Okay.
By 4 p.m. on August 13th, right? Happily and
Yeah.
easily. And
There you
we're
go.
going to envision that. We're going to sit there and think about what it's going to feel like to play those notes note for note. And we're going to map out the song and put it on paper. It's called cognitive distribution. When you take your brain and you put it on the paper, you're putting out what you're looking at, so you don't have to use those parts of your brain to think about those sections. So when to section out the song, we're going to go from 0.00 all the way to the 5.27, whatever Back in Black is, all the way down the page. So we have the song on paper, and we're going to write out the little notes about what you're going to be hitting and where, what part of the song is it. Is it the intro? Then we're going to go to verse, and then we'll go chorus, then we'll go verse, or whatever solo, however the song breaks down. We're going to map the song out first and work on it piece by piece and make sure he's got that feel going from the very start.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Now, the same kid, he's gotten through it, gotten through a couple of rock tunes. Now he wants to go and he wants to tackle jazz. He wants to understand how to swing, right?
Okay.
He's auditioning for jazz band, and his jazz band director is a tyrant. This guy, you have got to play perfect. What do you do? And
Well,
he has the fear of his jazz band director. That's the thing. He's
okay.
really scared of the guy, but he wants the gig.
I'm going to get him to wave his imaginary magic wand and
Okay.
imagine the ideal situation. And then I'm going to get him to start taking lessons from Jeremy Stein.
But I wasn't expecting Jerry. You know what? He's unavailable. He's hanging out with Chewy, and so he
Okay.
needs. I want to get him to go. There you go. I want to get him to call Jeremy. That's perfect.
I'm gonna sit there with him, and we're gonna go ahead and wave the magic wand. And in all seriousness, we're gonna get very clear on what his goal is. You can't just say I want to get better at playing jazz.
Right.
You got to get descriptive enough about a specific goal. You know what I mean? That's the other thing about goal setting is it's got to be specific. The more specific it is, the more motivated you are to get there, the more realistic it becomes. I want to get an A in jazz band would be a much better goal than to be better at jazz.
Yeah. Yeah. I like
That's
this.
what I would do with that situation.
Perfect. Chip, read the quote that just came in. I can't see who put it up there. That's what I'd
Rick
like.
Stojak said, "You guys are amazing. Thanks for all the insight, info. I feel lucky to have you guys in my world."
That's
And
good.
the quote from David Betts, it
That's
says,
David. Okay.
yeah, you've already heard this from Admiral McRaven said as part of his speech. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride and it will encourage you to do another task and another and another. By the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you will never do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you come home to a bed that is made, that you made, and a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed.
Brilliant.
That's
Absolutely
pretty good.
brilliant.
That's
Yeah,
good.
that is really good.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David. I've actually seen that video, and I love that video. I'm always about. I always have been. I don't know, since I was in my 20s, like trying to better things. So Anthony Robbins, I remember the Personal Power cassettes. I bought those,
Oh yeah.
and did those, and always been about me, reading self-help books and watching videos on YouTube and stuff like that, because I don't think there is no magic hack. There is no magic pill. I tell my drum students all the time, if I had a drawer full of magic drumming pills, I'd sell you one, but I would take one first. You have to put in the work. You have to. And 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 like Admiral McRaven said, says the whole thing about making the bed. Some days you're going to have a bad day. Sometimes you have a bad time at the gig. You have a bad day playing drums. You have a bad day of lessons, but you overcome that a day at a time. There's no magic hack to it. Now, I do agree with you, Chip. You have your magic wand, and if you're in a perfect world, that's what you head towards. But you have to put in the work, right?
Oh yeah. Breaking it down into those steps that the magic wand thing again comes back to what my core belief as far as goal setting is. The goal has to be shiny and sparkly and attractive and really get you up and get you pumped up and get you excited so you can have that energy to go through those mundane tasks of, I need a cover for my book. Well, am I going to design the cover and I'm going to do the rough draft by myself and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to start with a pen and a paper and how do I get through that horrible feeling of I'm not an artist and what am I going to do? Well, the goal again is to have that finished book in front of me. I'm looking at the finished book and it's amazing and I feel accomplished and I'm going to go ahead and go through that. That gives me the energy to get through those mundane tasks of maybe writing a demo cover of the book.
That's perfect, man. That's perfect. Now, when you're doing these tasks of the cover and writing the book, practicing the paradiddles, cleaning the house, whatever your task is that you are after, do you enjoy the process?
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. You put some music on and you get to it.
Yeah, yeah. And then when you're practicing drums and you're playing a part, you're playing Everybody Wants to Rule the World. You've never played it before. Wow, this is harder than I thought it would be. Do you enjoy the task of, oh man, I'm failing at this miserably. Oh, I'm not failing so bad. Oh, I'm getting better. Do you enjoy the task of getting better as a drummer? Do you enjoy it?
Part of me loves the process of training. Then there's practice. Then there's performing. And training is different than practicing. Practicing for me is getting yourself into that uncomfortableness and getting through the challenge. And one thing that gets me through that challenge, it gets me through that uncomfortable behavior of making all those mistakes and failing forward over and over and over, is the idea of that shiny goal of, hey, when I'm able to play that, I'm going to enjoy playing it.
Okay, I love that. So that's training.
That's practice for me.
That's practice. Okay, what's
Practice.
training? What's training?
Training for me is going through things that I can do already, but excelling at a physical pace and bumping up the BPMs and working on the rudimentary aspects of what it is I'm doing. Training is building the muscles and improving the speed.
So practice, training, and then performance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Talk to me about performance.
Performance is when you're in your game mode, you've got your warm up, you do the warm up and you're ready to go. And once you're ready to go, performance is when you let everything out of your brain and you focus on being present in the moment on stage. That's when you forget about the game plan, you forget about the practice, you forget about the training, and you let your mind get empty and you perform the music for what the music's calling for, or what the drum solo or the drumeo appearance with the drum solo. You're just going through the routine. You go through what you practiced for.
Okay. Let me put you into a situation from the past. And I'm always so curious about this stuff. Okay. They roll your drums out on the NBC stage, on the Ed Sullivan stage. You walk up, there's David Letterman.
Mm-hmm.
David Letterman, that'd be cool to meet him. He's David Letterman. But
Yeah.
to your right, Paul Schaefer and Anton Fig.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. Like, how far were they from you?
About 8 feet.
Okay, 8 feet. You got to throw down in front of Anton. What'd you do?
I got to throw down in front of 2 big cameras that are broadcasting the event live across the country.
Right. So you got to throw down. You did what did you do? What was your performance mindset, Chip? What did you do? How did you get there?
My performance mindset was all of the practice and the training and the rehearsing before that moment. Mm-hmm. My performance aspect was meditating and getting myself into this self-hypnosis. I have a control room set up on a staircase that I breathe into, and I get into my mindset of getting into this control room, totally deep breaths, totally calm, totally centered, and totally within my zone. I do that before I walk out on stage. So by the time I walk out on stage, I'm in performance mode already.
How long does it take you to get there?
That's probably about 5 minutes.
Okay. And then you just walk out there and you did your thing.
I walked out there, I got on the drums, I put the stick in my mouth, I looked over to see if it was okay to go or cleared to go, and David Letterman went like that. You know, and so it was on, boom, and I did my performance. And by then my routine was pretty much practiced to the point where I just went through step by step. Okay, it's time to do this, time to do the double backflip, time to do the front flip, time to start doing the beat that I'm going to start juggling on. Okay, now it's time to start juggling. And at one point I saw the drumsticks up in the air and the stick was twirling, and I saw the logo and my signature on the stick.
No.
I heard the crowd kind of start roaring while the stick was floating. It was like this subconscious slow-mo motion. It was really cool.
That's so cool. And you enjoyed that?
I enjoyed it, yeah. I don't remember most of it. Remembering it like it was overwhelming because of the sense of excitement was so great. I was so excited about the whole thing that I started remembering things like that after it was already over.
Okay.
So I went through my routine and I don't remember some of it. Yeah. When it was happening. I was just in the zone.
That's outstanding. That's outstanding.
Yeah, man, for that Letterman performance, that was a high-end stick trick performance. There's a lot of sticks leaving my hands and lots of opportunities to drop sticks in front of millions of people. You know what I mean? That in itself was like, okay, that's why I went over my routine and practiced like a gymnast. You know what I mean? I had my spots to hit and I hit my marks.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, and I think to any young player out there, any young drummer out there, musician, anybody watching this, I don't think that it's about, you know, when you're in the, for me, when I'm in the middle of getting ready for a performance like this, like for instance, when we played on World's Greatest Tribute Bands, it wasn't that big of an audience, but it was a lot. I think it was like 50 million or something like. It was a lot of
Mhm.
people that saw it, and I never thought about it during the performance. It was just another gig. It was just another gig. I mean, I saw the cameras. Um, I'd played the whiskey, a lot. So we're at the whiskey. I'm in familiar territory. I wasn't on the Ed Sullivan Theater stage, but I just went into that mode. I'm just, okay, I'm doing my gig. I'm just doing my gig. And then afterwards, I think that's when you enjoy it. I think that's the point where you're like, I'm in the moment during the performance and I'm enjoying what I'm doing, but it's afterwards that you look back and you go, wow, man, we just,
Yeah, absolutely.
we got to do that. That was cool. That
It's
was
very
really
cool.
cool. Yeah, it really is. It really is. Okay. So, um, this last piece of advice, Chip, what would you give anybody that's a young artist? Okay, no matter what they want to do, if you could put it into a nutshell of setting a goal, short term to long term, to reach whatever their long term goal would be. I know you've already said it, but what would, like, okay, do this and it will help? What would that be?
Well, I can't. I've already said it. I mean, waving that
Okay.
magic wand and allow yourself to dream beyond what you're normally thinking. Go farther and sit with your goal. Write it down rewrite it until it makes you feel happy, until it makes your heart pump, and it really feels good to just kind of focus on, wow, I'm so happy and grateful now that my album is out and people are listening to it on iTunes.
Yeah.
Just sitting there and imagining what that feels like and spending time every day imagining what that feels like. I've even
Yeah.
gone so far to set a timer and be like, here's 5 minutes. Okay, focus on the goal without taking any steps towards the goal, just focusing on the goal and filling myself up with that end result. That's the biggest piece of advice, the best piece of advice I could give a young artist.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, since we've talked about the Ed Sullivan Show and we ask everybody, where'd you get pizza after the Ed Sullivan Show in New York? Where'd you go?
I don't think I had pizza, man.
Oh, dude, no, you're killing me.
Nope,
What'd
I
you
had
do?
room service. I had a cheeseburger from room service.
Yeah, and where did you stay?
I forgot what that is. The biggest hotel directly catty corner from Madison Square Garden. I forgot what the name
From
is.
Madison Square? Okay. I've only
Yeah,
been to New York once, and we stayed at, it was a Sheraton, and like literally around the corner was oh, what's the big hotel that Donald Trump owns? Not Trump Tower, the other one, the one that was in
Trump
Home
Plaza.
Alone. No, the one that was in Home Alone.
I don't know.
It was right around the corner from there. Everybody, I look like an idiot now, but that's okay. That was my goal to look stupid on deck today. So
That's all right. I just didn't have any. I don't have any good pizza from New York stories.
That's
Sorry.
okay. Well, that's it. I did have good pizza in New York, but I don't remember where it was. Anyway, hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. Chip and I do our little dog and pony show here today. Chip and I are dear friends. We're great buddies, and actually, I talked to. I'm going to be in Scottsdale.
Nice.
Playing at Casino Arizona
And I'm gonna see if
Friday
I
and
can
Saturday,
see him.
and I'm going to put Chip on the guest list. So watch your social media. You might see a picture of me and Chip in Scottsdale,
Right on.
and hopefully he can make it. I want to thank everybody for watching. We want to wish Rick Stojak, even though he said he's feeling better, we want to wish him a super good recovery. Jeremy, tell Chewbacca that Chip and I said hello, and we will see you next week on the deck.
Awesome. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Have a great day.
Have a great day, everybody.